past weekend, I had the opportunity of a lifetime. I had the opportunity of a lifetime to go to the NFL draft in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Now, it was kind of crazy because Green Bay has always been looked at as a small market. And we know with the small market team, being the smallest market, it's always like, oh, there's not enough hotels and not enough of this and that to be able to get the draft or get the Super Bowl or whatnot. Because we know Green Bay isn't ever getting the Super Bowl, but the fact that Green Bay was finally able to actually get their first NFL draft ever for a small city of 107,000 people, it was quite the experience. So I'm going to, this video is going to be, kind of talking about my experiences, things I witnessed, the good, the bad, what I liked, what I didn't like. I might put some pictures. I don't know about videos because audio reasons, but I'm going to put some pictures with this. So, yeah, let's get right into it. So I live about an hour, little less than an hour south of Green Bay. So, I had to drive. I had to drive a little ways. So we went to so I drove my uncle lives in Green Bay, so I drove up to Green Bay with him. We sat at his house for about an hour on Thursday. Then we drove up. Then we drove found a because the parking was terrible. Like when I say the parking was, I mean some places were charging $125 to park, some were charging 50. Luckily where my uncle parked, we were able to park right away without having to pay. It was just like a 25-minute walk to the stadium. So because they were doing it right outside of Lambeau Field, they had the stage here, and I can always they had the stage over here, and then they had the stadium here. So it's kind of wild. So we're walking up, doing all this stuff. So it's a little bit of a walk to actually get around to the entrance to the draft because it was all blocked off because, like I said, the stage was over here. We had to walk all the way over here, which is where the entrance was. And I brought a few things with me. I brought a sweater in case I got cold, a Sharpie. I brought an autographed football too, because I thought they have an audit because they had an autograph tent. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go see. Maybe there's a player or two that just happens to be walking around, whether it's a rookie, uh, current NFL player, or an alumni. I thought, okay, well, maybe one of those three is actually. I'm like, okay, well, maybe one of those three is actually going to be here for me to be able to watch. If you get what I'm saying. And well, I got up to the gate, and they check the bags. All's good. Most 95% of places they have you check bags and stuff. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, all right, that's fine. Yeah. Then they say I couldn't bring my football in, and I'm just like, what? Like it's a football event. I can't bring in a football. I get it. I guess they don't want people throwing it, but for me it wasn't. So, it was the fact that this was autographed, and they're like, can't bring it in. So I'm like, but we didn't want to walk all the way back to the car because it would have been about a 20-minute walk or so from back, and then by the time we got there, the draft would have been full and all that. So it's like, screw it. So we set it down on the side, hoping, okay, it'll be there when we get back, and then I can, go and take in all that stuff. So we're walking in. It's a cluster because Green Bay has like I said has a population of 107,000 people, which cramming so many people in a small little area is a lot. Which the attendance numbers did way better. They were only expecting like 250,000 the total. That they got up to 600,000 over 3 nights. But anyway, so they had this stadium open. They had Lambeau Field open because like concessions. The atrium is open year round. That has the pro shop, the Hall of Fame, has a restaurant in it, photo opportunities, all that stuff to go year round. So that was open, and they had like the actual stadium. So then originally no. So first we went to go to the draft theater because it was a free ticket, so we could go in the draft theater. We could go on this do any of the activities around there for free. So, we go to do that. It says the theater's full. So we're like, okay, well, so we couldn't actually go in the draft theater to watch the draft. So what we did is we did the next best thing. We were like, okay, let's go in the stadium. We found out that in the stadium, they had half the seating bowl open. So we went and we sat at the seating bowl. We sat and we sat and we watched the first few picks from the seating bowl. They had the nice helicopter flyover, all that stuff. Clay Matthews and a few other Packer legends came out, pretty much said the Bears still suck. Roger Goodell and those fellow players and Lil Wayne came out on bicycles, which is a tradition for the Packers in training camp where the players will ride younger children's bikes from Lambeau to the practice facility for spring training, or not spring training camp. And so that was fun. And then, first few picks, it was nice being able to watch the draft from Lambeau because it's such a historic stadium. And I've been there a good amount of times, but to watch the draft from there and to see half of it empty because they only open half the stadium, it's like, okay, I could actually revel and soak in Lambeau Field from the empty side because, okay, well, I actually get to see it physically half empty for once because every Packer game is mostly sold out, so you never really get to see it empty, whether they're good or bad. And so then, after about pick 3, which was when Abdul Carter went to the Giants, my uncle and I are like, okay, well, let's try the draft theater again. So, we walked, all that stuff, and it wasn't open yet. But next thing you know, because we had an app, we had the NFL One Pass app, which could tell us if the draft theater was open or not, and we were able to actually, get in to the draft theater. They opened the gate and we just darted. I lost my uncle for a bit, but we were able to find him. I was able to find him and do all that stuff. So, we were able to get in. We found some other family and friends that we were there with, so that were also there. So, we found them in the draft theater. We sat, we watched, listened to all the picks, talked, were in awe. And then the crazy thing happened. When the Packers came up, they brought out CEO Mark Murphy to announce the draft pick and to announce the Packers 2025 first round pick. And it's like, okay, well, and Mark Murphy, because it's all been known about the Packers draft woes for a while, and it's like, being able to see the draft in Green Bay though is like, but anyways, so Mark Murphy's like,
since 2002. Woo! Draft a wide receiver.
Yeah!
Matthew Gold.
That was a lot of fun getting to see them take a wide receiver, Matthew Golden, in the first round. I kid you not, it felt so surreal to see a Packer player hold up that jersey at Lambeau Field to be like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm here and stuff, and getting to look at, and all these rookies getting to look at the place, look at the most historic stadium in football, especially Matthew Golden holding up that Packers jersey, as you can see, and staring at Lambeau Field, the place he's going to be playing for the next 4 or 5 years. It's really surreal. So then, we decided, okay, Packers picked. We're like, okay, it was getting a little late, so we're like, okay, we're going to go. Everyone saw what they wanted to see, which was the Packers, picking in the first round because they had the 23rd pick. And then, we go back, we walk the same way we did, and yeah, turns out they discarded my autographed football. So that was the end of that. I went back to my uncle's, stayed the night there, had to drive back because I worked on Friday, so I couldn't, unfortunately, go to night 2. But then day 3, I was able to get off for Saturday, so for day 3, I went to the draft. Drove back up with some friends this time. We walked about a half hour from the stadium, so we walked, got in, and this is more of the day for me where it was like, I wanted to focus more on the outside activities rather than always just the draft theater, because I did that on Thursday. I'm like, we were focused on getting into the draft and the theater on Thursday, that there was no focus on trying to do all this other stuff. So, because they had, obviously, the Packer Pro Shop, they had an NFL Pro Shop that, had jerseys, they had jerseys, banners, all that stuff for these other teams. They had a Vince Lombardi Trophy viewing thing where you could view the Lombardi Trophy. They had whatchamacallit. They had the Super Bowl rings on display. They had some like mini games that you could do. They had a field goal contest. They had a Hail Mary throwing thing. They had autographs. They had a the cool thing is they had this like card thing where you could go up, take a picture, you could be on a card, as you can see right here. Like, so that was a lot of fun to be able to be featured on a card. Like, yeah, like, and so yeah, like I said, rock my Jordan Love jersey. Then, we explored a bit. We explored around a bit more. Paid for food, $20 for cheese curds, fries, and a soda. Like, that's absurd because we actually went in the stadium again. We went in the stadium again, sat, soaked it in. Watched a bit of the draft from the stadium because it was unique to actually see it open and stuff. And then, went back in the pro shop. Then we went in the draft theater for a bit, walked around, saw some picks. Baron Sorrell, who was the 4th-round pick by the Packers, we got to see him get drafted by the Packers live at Lambeau Field. So he was a day 3 pick, but he toughened it out and was there. So we walked around. They had like the game day crew, college game day crew. They had, I didn't get to take many pictures of it on Thursday, but they had the Pat McAfee crew. They had obviously they had the ESPN crew for the NFL and all that stuff. And so then, we went in the draft. So then, after a little while, we kind of, we did all the exploring we wanted to, did all the fun mini activities and stuff. And then, we went back to the draft theater. Scott Hansen, who he's the host for NFL Red Zone on NFL Network and stuff, and he was like the MC for the day. So like he was giving out prizes. He was giving out prizes to fans and stuff. I think there's some Super Bowl tickets they gave away. There was some autographed helmets. I think there was a Patrick Mahomes one, a Jalen Hurts one, all that stuff. So it was fun, getting to like see all these fun activities on the stage and stuff. And so just being there, we got to move up a bit closer because so many people would file out. So we got to move up closer, and then the draft ended. They did the Mr. Irrelevant stuff that the NFL likes to do. They honor them, which props to them. Like, I don't know if I want to do it. Then they do this thing called like the handoff. So they brought some Packer alumni. Well, they brought Leroy Butler and Mark Murphy, who's the Packers CEO. They had the draft ball in their hand, and then they had, because Pittsburgh's getting it next year, so they had people from Pittsburgh on the stage as well, and Green Bay they had Leroy Butler hand the ball to the people for Pittsburgh to pretty much say, oh, Pittsburgh's now on the clock for the draft. So but that wasn't it. To close off the draft, they had Brad Paisley perform. Which I love seeing Brad Paisley. I don't think he puts on a bad show. It was really fun to watch him, as always. He took a girl's phone and took a selfie with everybody in the crowd, and so that was a lot of fun. Always enjoy seeing Brad Paisley, especially because it was a free concert. So it's like, can't go wrong with a free concert. And as someone who grew up with country music, it's like, yeah, Brad Paisley didn't put on a bad show there. So then, and then they closed out the draft in the best way they could. They played Country Roads with the whole draft theater singing because, as crazy as it sounds, Country Roads is kind of a big deal in Wisconsin. So it was fun. I got to see Tom Grossi announce a draft pick. He's an NFL he's a Packer super fan. He does all this fun stuff. Charlie Barons, who is a comedian, he got to announce. Jimmy Uso, he's a wrestler. Chelsea Green got to announce a pick for the Seahawks. Night 2 I didn't get to see, but Seth Rollins got to announce a pick for the Bears because, yeah. But yeah, so and then went home again. Well, got some food at a bar nearby. Went home. It was a really long night, but honestly, I wouldn't have traded this experience in for anything. It was so surreal to see little Green Bay, Wisconsin, a town of, well, not little, but little in terms of sports market. It's the smallest market in all sports. 107,000 people isn't an ideal market for a professional sports team, but to see that the NFL put so much trust in Green Bay to get the draft and to prep for it. Only expected 250,000 people. They got over 600,000, and they got 7.5 million TV viewers, which is also the second highest watched draft after the pandemic. So Green Bay not only broke the record for second highest attended draft behind Detroit last year, but the second most watched draft ever. Because there's so many questions because Shedeur Sanders kept falling to round 5. And so there was all this stuff, but it was so surreal to see the draft finally come to Green Bay. I'd been waiting for this since they announced it in May of 2023 that, oh, Green Bay's getting the draft. I'm like, I'm going. I don't care what anyone says. I'm going because, like, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity and it's free. So I didn't need to pay a single dime. The only money I paid was for stuff I got at the stadium. But yeah, I wouldn't have traded this in for anything else. It was a surreal experience, and it's kind of sad that a week gets past and it's like, oh, bummer. It's like, oh, this is the end, but don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened, right? Like, I looked forward to this, and I was actually able to live it. That's all I can ask for in this situation. But yeah, well, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I like doing like these sit down conversations and all these kind of videos. But yeah, if you guys like what you saw, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.